All right, thank you for staying here, watching Daybreak, reaching you live from the nation's capital in Abuja. Now, there are strong indications that President Muhammadu Buhari is in dilemma over whether to assent to the re-amended 2010 Electoral Act, Bill 2022, 18 days after receiving the bill from the National Assembly. Reports are saying that the president is still consulting with some stakeholders, but what is more displeasing is the growing lack of sense of urgency by both the executive and the legislature to complete work on the electoral bill, especially if you look at the concerns of Independent National Electoral Commission to come up with a timetable, barely a year to the general elections in 2023. Now, we'll be looking at this conversation, and we're being joined virtually by political research and policy analyst Adeni Kunu, who joins us from Lagos. If you're there, if you can hear me, good morning. Thank you for joining us on Daybreak.
I want to say a big thank you. Thank you very much for having me. And it's a pleasure to be on your platform. Yes, please.
Well, it's almost 3 weeks now since the National Assembly transmitted the amendment bill to the presidency. A lot of Nigerians were thinking, oh, the moment the National Assembly sent that bill to the president, we're going to see an assent immediately, considering the fact that all the issues that were raised by the president initially has been sorted by the lawmakers. So why are we having these delays, Annie?
I think we can cut the National Assembly from flag. And perhaps we need to put it to the president to confirm what his fears are. Do not forget that the president continues to be the guy. If my record serves me, that this will be the third time or so that the president has refused to actually send a signature to it. So perhaps there are certain things the president is afraid of if he puts, his signature to it. Because um, we at some point thought, okay, the changes which reflect acceptably so, electronic transmission of results was the initial brouhaha that the National Assembly was able to do. But at the moment, they've been back and forth with their delegation and have eventually agreed. Do not forget also that Nigerians trusted them to do what they have to do. But it's surprising now that the president is holding his link to the paper. So I think the buck stops at the table of the president, and this is going to be one of the things that will sign him out of office as a man who walks a talk, or as a man who only does what favors him, particularly fulfilling his ambition to be president, as some others have done. So I think the president will not be caught a single slack here because he has not done what he should do, and we expect him to sign that. So basically, the president should be the one telling us why he is afraid of signing the electoral amendment as put to him.
The president has actually repeatedly said that he wants to leave an enduring legacy, yet his body language says different. What are the consequences of not assenting to the bill or, any further delay?
In the first place, let's understand that there are certain changes that Nigerians have been waiting for. One of that was actually what I mentioned earlier regarding the electronic transmission of results, where we're able to see things real time. Now, let me just share some of the things that both of you are obviously, I believe, aware of. Do not forget that before the 2019 election, INEC told us, Nigerians, that there will be electronic transmission of results and that there's a server somewhere. I have video evidence to that effect, quoting Barrister Igini, one of INEC's recent electoral commissioners. Do not forget also that money was earmarked to ensure that we have unhindered transmission of results. So the first thing that I expected people to ask for after the 2019 election, why did we not have people saying certain amounts of money were actually earmarked for what INEC told us about? And don't forget that the flimsy excuse they gave was the electronic transmission of results uh, doesn't reflect in the electoral amendment, as we had it. Then why did INEC make so much noise about it? Why did we increase the funding to INEC? Because we believe that there will be, financial inclusion or financial need of the two and the pattern regarding the electronic transmission of results and some other introduction that is made. Do not also forget that we're talking about the Anambra elections and certain new developments that they infused, reflecting what we're supposed to expect when the major election comes. Do not forget we're going to have two elections this year prior to the elections of next year. So the picture would be that the implication actually gives a thumbs down to the president, who perhaps doesn't seem to be very interested. If I were to judge him by his body language and to what he said, I think the president perhaps is unwilling to make that fly because certain political affiliates, associates, or cronies, as it were, would not benefit from the Electoral Amendment Act if we signed it the way it is. But let's also understand that the Nigerian people will hold into account. He came to the saddle on very good notes. He came to the saddle on very good will of the Nigerian people. So we're waiting for him to see how much he gives back to the people that put him in office. It's very key. Justice.
All right. Now, how much of changes do we expect, when this electoral bill is eventually passed into our laws? How much of impact will it have on the process?
I think that any election can go through without needful element of trust. Do not forget that the major challenge with the election is for Nigerians to believe that the process has always been free, fair, and as it should be. So, if we're talking about the election, one would expect that, particularly the electoral amendment that everyone is clamoring for, to rebuild the trust in the Nigerian process of electioneering. Let's say this: there has been a decline in the number of those who participate in elections. The 2019 election had over 84 million registered voters, and not up to 40 million people voted. It tells you that there's a decline, and that is concern. If you also look at INEC has told us that there's been an increase in the polling, the respective polling units, and also there's been some expansion of applications. We have more people that are registered, but that is not enough. How do we build the trust of the people? Do not forget that anytime you have low level of trust in our election process, there will be likely violence after the election or during the election, and there will be too many litigations more than can be handled. As a matter of fact, INEC mentioned before the 2019 election that part of the problem it is dealing with happens to be the very many litigations that they cannot cope with. So, if the only thing the electoral amendment can do is to build trust, and at the same time, INEC needs to be properly empowered. Let me remind us that at the height of the conversation leading to this electoral amendment, the lawmakers at the federal level always hijack the powers of INEC by wanting to place its administration and its work under the Ministry of Information Communications Technology when they were talking about identity verification and all of that and the VPN issue. So INEC first was the problem empowered to be very independent of every other government agency, especially the lawmakers, even if they're involved in the process of legislating for what is done. Then secondly, INEC must consistently build the mutual connection with the people. In doing that, proper sensitization and education is very needed. We don't have much of that. Don't forget that between 2019 and now, we've had millions of people turn 18. Before the end of this year, some other persons will become 18. So we're having people who probably were 16 years in 2019 and now they're going to turn 18. So before the 2019 election, 2023 election, we have about four different categories of people: 16, 17, or even 15 people, 15-year-olds become 18. So that means they'll be eligible for election. So what is INEC doing to sensitize and educate those new people that have come within the ranks of being able to exercise their franchise? So this thing is very fundamental to the success that we hope to find going forward.
Okay, now let's go back to what you said about the electronic transmission of results. Do you think INEC actually needs an act or a presidential assent to electronically transmit results? And do we even have the capacity, considering, what happened to the BVAs during the FCT council elections recently?
Well, I have to say very clearly that in terms of capacity, I would have to say that we don't have the capacity. Do not forget, even if you live in a remote village in Nigeria, but you have a bank account, your bank account is not something that operates on the analog system, it operates on the digital system. It therefore means that over 40 million Nigerians, or about 45 million Nigerians that have bank accounts now are really connected. That's less than the number of people that participated in the 2019 election. I need to say this very clearly, that Nigeria has the capacity to declare that. And don't forget this, please don't get it right. Your reason may have been spurred for asking this question because of the areas where telecommunication networks are not possible. But let's not forget that people do businesses in areas that also have been dealt bad blows by insurgency and all of that. But at the same time, are we not meant to move forward regardless of this? If we indeed are able to manage this to a great extent, if we said, for instance, that very few people comparatively will not be able to participate, then what about moving that makes happen? Because if we talked about, and we look at the number of council people, polling units that INEC has to council. Apparently, I think Nigeria has the capacity to function at that level. Do not also forget that one of the things that we're talking about is can people really participate voting using their own number? These things are very possible. Do not forget that every BVN generated connected with the bank account is so done, and you hardly ever make mistakes using your phone number for bank transactions or financial transactions. So if we are able to, deal with that, it is more or less a possibility for us to also do that because it has become very needed for us to operate a system that will make people believe in their own. Let me tell you this, the trust quotient in our election process is very, very low. It is very, very low, below par. And I need to say this very categorically, that is an we need to build. The same way somebody must talk about building trust across board in terms of politician and people relationship. Your death in the studio said something very fundamental. He said, since the establishment of the except of course for no value. Every other person that has headed the EFCC has been accused of one form of malfeasance or one form of corrupt practice or the other. In fact, Ibrahim Lamade still has questions that are unanswered. That is lack of trust in the system of governance and leadership. So I need to say that in terms of our election processes, we can help build trust and Nigeria have the capacity to deploy technology, and it is not going to be only technology. While we are doing technology moving forward, because it's not going to be something we do all at once, it's a gradual process. We can also make it a hybrid system where the regular paper voting and all of that, we also make and all of that takes place, while we're also infusing technology to open things get better. This country can work, but are we determined to make it to all the people that put these people in office? That's a major question that I don't want us to leave us directly.
Right, now, let's also get other perspectives on this subject. We're now being joined virtually as well by the Chairman, Inter-Party Advisory Council, and the National Chairman, Action Democratic Party, Engineer Yusuf Yabagi Sani, who will also give us his own perspectives. Well, thank you for joining us on Daybreak this morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
So now, I mean, if you've been listening to the other guests, on the show today, talking about the delay in the passage of the Electoral Act. Now, one other area that some people have raised concern about is the fact that, Nigeria's leadership, Nigeria's political leadership is not, as desired because of the political recruitment process. And that also points to the issue of, internal democracy within political parties. In the electoral amendment, that we are awaiting assent, to what extent do you think it will improve on internal democracy in our political parties?
Well, thank you very much for having me. I believe that Nigeria has come of age, and we are a country that the rest of the world look up to for leadership, especially when you talk about democracy on the continent of Africa. By extension, you can talk about the entire black race because we constitute a major percentage of the black race. And therefore, people look up to us for leadership. That is why some of us are worried when we dilly-dally with issues that are very fundamental to issues of entrenching democracy, ensuring that we have free, fair, credible elections, as entrenched in the bill that is now before Mr. President, which some of us have come to entertain the fears that perhaps could it be that this bill is being filibustered so that time will now again be a hindrance for the passage of this bill? Or is it that there are other issues that Nigerians have not been told and they are equally important to issue of growing democracy, free, fair elections in this country? As the chairman of IPA, we share in the concern of Mr. President, because if you are leaving a legacy, perhaps a legacy that is fundamental as this one, maybe you will like to take all the time to ensure that you get it right, because you may not have the opportunity to correct whatever you have done. But again, history, does not have, respect or regard for people who refuse to take action. History only bears you out, even if the action you took while you are in office is the wrong decision. So that's why we would like Mr. President to perhaps, uh, look at this bill from a wider perspective of history, that long after he's no longer in office and in his retirement, we will have cause to smile and be happy with what God has given him, which is a golden opportunity. So I feel that there's no need for these delays that we're experiencing in this bill. When you look at other provisions that are in this bill, such as electronic transfer of results, that in itself will save lives. It will save money for this country that is now battling with revenue. It will save the voters, a lot of hardship, unnecessary killing that greets our election process. So I think, Mr. President, I'm sure would like to do anything possible to save Nigerians' lives, especially those Nigerians who have demonstrated that they are interested and committed, and are compatriots that have come out, against all odds to cast their vote, because you have to be a compatriot. You have to be somebody who have interest in how your country is governed for you to leave whatever you are doing and come out to vote. So, Mr. President, I'm sure we would like to protect those people, and we would also like to save this country unnecessary waste of money that we engaged in whenever we are conducting elections. Having said that, I think the National Assembly also, they have their own bit of problems there, because why did they introduce provisions that were not there before? Why not just take the bill, correct, the issues of drafting, like cross the T's and then dot the I's, and then pass it back to Mr. President, as it were, so that we will not have cause to now go through this tortuous process of Mr. President have to consult with this, consult with that, before he now signs the bill. I remember that the other bill, the previous bill I was saying, Mr. President, sure, it contained the issue of those who are political appointees to resign before they can participate in any process of towards the election. I think that goes without saying, because elections were had in this country. INEC has it that if you are occupying a political office, you have to resign. So why now bring it into a bill and make it an issue? If it wasn't a case of filibustering to delay and then ensure that we don't get this bill passed. And I think in IPAC, we are worried. We are worried, believe you me, because we know that the political parties are always at the receiving end. You know, we are the ones that will ask people to come and represent our candidates as agents. We are the ones that are going around to tell Nigerians to come out to vote. And we want to subject them to these tortures, this risky, life-consuming, process that is out of tune with the trend all over the world.
Now, so in other words, maybe I should get a response from Adeni in Lagos. Do you think that this is about to set us, on another roller coaster ride again? Looking at the time that we have left, to the general elections.
Speaking, it's mind-boggling for me to hear my older friend on the other side make mention of certain things. What he mentioned are no issue. In the first place, let's understand that the lawmakers are the most, expectedly as it were, the most democratic part of the Fourth Republic. Let me say it as it is. The president was voted for, but oftentimes the president doesn't directly account for his constituents. And the mechanisms of communication between the president and Nigerians is oftentimes looked at to the grassroots of lawmakers. Most of the amendments put together and introduced into the Electoral Act are a function of their interaction with their constituents. And as lawmakers, you cannot but listen to your constituents. So when Mr. Yabagi was talking about the fact that why didn't they just cross the T's and dot the I's and put it back, that is not progressive politics. And if the APC claims to be progressive, I think that is contrary to progression in politics. It is really shocking.
Adeni, if you can hear me, I think the point is about, we have seen how much the introduction of the direct primaries, clause dragged the assent to that bill. And I believe that what Yabagi is saying is that, introducing this new item again could also lead us into another long ride of, having to now start debating, whether these people should have the opportunity to run or not, and the likes. So, in other words, we do not have time. And, what can we do to see the speedy assent of this bill so that INEC can continue with its, activities?
I think that it is not a problem, really. The person delaying the assent is the president, not the lawmakers. And if the lawmakers representing every nook and cranny of Nigeria deems it fit to put certain things in a document for our elections, I believe that is reflective of what many Nigerians want. I mean, the composition of the bill is from all the ethnic groups in the country, not a segment of the country. So if we're talking about the delay, the lawmakers may have taken the swipe with the delay. While I understand what Mr. Yabagi is saying, I also believe that the president must justify his intention by acting fast or whatever. For instance, after 18 days, as you said, statement as the president made. Don't forget the last one that wasn't take for about a month. I'm saying here that the president must keep quiet on this. the president would be in office forever. So while we are talking about the delay, I think we should let the president understand that the intention should be very good if he says certain things categorically so that the lawmakers can know how to move forward. The APC has the highest number of representation of the National Assembly. So the president has the advantage, which is to communicate with them regarding what has to be done. But I need to say very clearly here, it is very key for the president not to keep quiet on it again, because it seems like a process that will meet another dead end. And that is what we don't need. So I will urge the president to either say, I will fight it because of A, B, C, and D, rather than keep quiet and let time go. The president is the one delaying. So whatever the intentions are, his words and actions appears to be speaking contrary, or the fact that he's not speaking contradicts his good intention, if at all that's what it means.
What sort of consultations are we, looking at here? We understand that the president is consulting with certain stakeholders. Is that really necessary? I mean, why don't you just go ahead and sign the bill?
Please, I didn't hear that. Can you repeat it, please?
In responding to what Mr. Adeni said, he said that the president is the one delaying, the passage of that bill. So, and we are wondering what sort of consultation is going on. I mean, we understand by reports that the president is making consultations before giving his assent. So why don't the president just go ahead and just give his assent to the bill? I mean, what sort of consultations does he need after a body like the National Assembly has deliberated on, some of those key issues?
I believe you're talking. That's for me. I believe that's for me, right? All right. Now, I think that they have a kind of internal working system as a political party. Let me remind us of an obvious happening. Before the current leadership of the Senate was constituted, there were meetings back and forth with the president over who becomes the leader before they went to vote, even at the level of the House of Reps. And do not forget that the president continues to meet with them if there are very serious emergency issues that we believe the lawmakers need to take a stand on. So if there's any kind of consultation that the president will have, I think he has a way of reaching out to the leadership of the Senate and of course the leadership of the House of Reps, where he's able to tell them specifically if he's not willing to meet with many people. I think that he could meet with them at the level of the leadership positions they occupy and say, this particular inclusion you've put here is going to affect ABC and D. But even let me look at it. And there's something very important that we have to say. It talked about the fact that people who want to vie for positions resign from a position that is substantial so that they can contest election. I think that we should understand how the tactics of democracy work, because we actually have taken place, let me say, from the United States, since we left the parliamentary system of government. You do not want to go into contesting elections for a new position, and you want to secure the position you're holding. I don't have an adjective for the politics. More or less like telling me that because it is financially meant for you to go into an election, then you don't want to contest because you, more or less like saying you don't want to write an exam you fail. So I think that the consultation to begin from the nation, the way the meeting will say.
Okay, well, if we have Engineer Yabagi there, we'd like to get your own response, to all of this. The thing is, I mean, I understand that we do not have enough time. But again, you have expressed fears that these insertions, these new provisions could usher us into another session of controversy, which will, likely see another drag, of giving assent to the bill and all of that. What are your concerns, really, when it comes to the timing that we have left?
Well, my concern, first of all, I hope that Mr. President is not under the erroneous impression or believe that with this bill we will solve all the problems with our elections. No, we are not about to write a Bible or Quran, which comes from God that has no mistake. You know, whatever you do as a human being, there must be some mistakes. And we have, very recent examples of bills that were passed in spite of their imperfections. Mr. President even protested in signing one of them, which is the appropriation bill. He sent it and then he followed it up with some amendments. PIA is one of them. PIA is an important piece of legislation too, as far as our economy is concerned. That's petroleum industry, and it wasn't perfect. Immediately after they passed it, they begin to introduce, certain amendments. So why not this one? Why can't we pass what is it? And then immediately the next, the following week, you can send in your amendments that, oh, yeah, it's this, but we want you to amend it this way. So the point I'm making is that this is important for an administration, a government, because it's about the nation. It's not about the government. It's not about Mr. President's government. It's not about APC government. It's about Nigeria. Nigeria transcends any government you want to talk about. And so far it transcends all government, which means that you can't solve all our problems at once. So they're saying this must pass the way it is. We are not about to, like I said, it's not a silver bullet. If you sign it, that's the problem with elections. No, in the next minute, you discover that things are needed to
all right, network seems to be an issue right now, but thank you so much to both our guests for the perspectives on this issue. Thank you so much for, tuning in virtually, talking about Inter-Party Advisory Council and the National Chairman, Action Democratic Party, Engineer Yusuf Yabagi Sani, and all the way from Lagos, Research and Policy Analyst Adeni Kunu.
Thank you very much for the privilege.